Right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Against All Odds. And I'm so excited about today's guests. So I would love to welcome Chris Sheehan on the podcast.
Hi,
Hello,
mate.
my lovely. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm amazing, thank you.
Good.
So I always have inspirational people on here because I like to be around inspirational people, but I've got something to admit to you. So when I went public on Facebook going, I am doing this podcast and I'm going to have inspirational people, being from a neuroscience background, you were the first person that I messaged.
Wicked. Even before
Yeah.
Gino.
Yeah, because what the work you do, I think is so important, my lovely. And I just think every parent needs to hear what you've got to say.
100%.
So you own the Fearless Academy. In your own words, for the people that don't know you, what do you do in the Fearless Academy?
In the Fearless Academy, I help kids become more motivated, confident, happier, and live better, fulfilling lives. That is as plain and black and white as it comes.
Right.
Um,
Okay. So what ages are these children?
so 6 to 16, they're like the main group. So the main program that I run online is 6 to 16. Just recently, I've been contacted by colleges and stuff like that. So there's local colleges that I'm working with at the moment. From September onwards, I'm going to be working with their students plus outside projects that they've got going on in local secondary schools. So one of them, for instance, is they run programs for kids that are on the verge of being permanently excluded from their secondary school. They go into college. It might be 1 day a week, 2 days a week, or they might be there full time. And I'm going to be going in and working with them as well. So it's a big age range. But generally
Yeah.
speaking, what I do is sort of primary, secondary school.
Perfect. So I've known you for a while and I've been following your journey on social media and I'm like, oh, Chris is here now and Chris is there and Chris is everywhere. And it's great. And I keep seeing the post of what like children that you've impacted and what they're doing now. It's absolutely fantastic. But when I see people do a job like yours where you are quite niche, but you are impacting so many people, I always know there's a powerful why behind what you're doing. So even though it's people don't like to talk about the why, but I need to ask because that it'll resonate with people
Yeah.
and they'll be like, oh, that's exactly why it does it. So what is the why and why does it get you out of bed every morning?
So I have no issue talking about it whatsoever. And one thing I pride myself on is being open and honest about where I've been, what I've been through. It's depending on ages that I'm talking to. Obviously, I'm a lot more vocal about bits and pieces as well. So really, when I look back now, things really started to sort of take place for me when I was a kid. So I was 9 when my mum and dad broke up. My brother was 6. I was a lot more aware of the situation, what was going on. At 9 years of age, you're starting to sort of, you understand the world a lot more and consequences of things that are happening. Where my brother was 6 and was probably a little bit oblivious really to what was going on. It was quite upsetting. My dad was there, went from being there quite a lot at home, obviously, then to seeing him sort of every weekend, then every other weekend. And it kind of sort of fizzled out over time. A lot of that I think as a kid, I remember being upset, but I think I suppressed a lot of it. Didn't really talk about it a great deal. Fast forwarding on to sort of early 20s, I had my boys, my eldest boy, Alfie, had him when I think I was about 22, 23. And we had Charlie a few years later. Cut a long story short, we ended up splitting. Me and his mum split up. And although I saw the kids like pretty much 6 days a week, so I was doing the swimming lessons, I was doing the football academy, I was having my regular days of them, and then I coached Alfie's football team at the weekend as well. I saw them every day, but it was the not being in the house sort of situation. If that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I was there a lot as a dad. Um, Always had a great relationship with my boys ever since they were like little, tiny little boys. And it was the not being there that I really struggled with. I used to play football a lot, what I'm kind of trying to build up is like the build up to what happened. And there was a situation where I snapped my knee playing football, and looking back now, football was almost like a meditation for me. I always
Yeah.
say, even now, when I crossed that white line and went to play football, the only thing that was in my head for the next 90 minutes was football.
Yeah.
There was no other stuff going on. There was no worrying about when I'm going to see the kids or what's going on at work or anything like that. So I lost that. I lost the flat that I was working in. I had to move back home, and things sort of like just took a bit of a downhill spiral. Um, I then met someone else, and after a year and a half, I found out that she was living a double life pretty much the whole time we were together. Um, I introduced her to my boys, so there's all that side of mess of things and stuff, and it all started to sort of build up and build up and build up. And then you've probably seen recently posts I made about Arlo, the little boy that I took on as mine as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So there's that situation as well. And then there was a period in 2017 where there was three sort of like catalysts that really sort of like pushed me to where I was in 2018. In the back of 2017, basically, I lost my nephew at 3 weeks old. Well, my brother lost his little boy at 3 weeks old. He's just a poorly little baby. Obviously, that impacted us as a family. I wanted to sort of support my brother the best I could and his wife, and I struggled with that a lot. The week after that, me and my two boys had a really serious car accident, which we were lucky to walk away from. Had a hit, basically a car came across the white line coming towards us and hit us head on. And then there was the situation with my ex where I found out she'd been living a double life. And it just got to a point where I was just like, you know, I just can't do this anymore. And there'll be so many people out there that will recognize this feeling, like where you just feel like I'm just done. Like, what is the
Yeah.
point? Like, every time and the way I always just say it, and you'll hear people say this all the time, one step forward, two steps back.
Yeah.
And that's what my life felt like for years. Um, and these three catalysts sort of really happened, and that's when it really started to sort of drop off. And I used to go for a walk every morning before work. And this one morning, I just found myself at the cliff edge up at where I live. And I remember standing there, and I never made it really sort of public or spoke about it too much. It was only sort of like last year, the year before, that family even knew that that happened.
Yeah.
Basically, I went for a walk in the morning like I used to every single day. And one day I just found myself at this cliff edge. And I always say, like, when I talk about it in like colleges and stuff like that, because they like me being very honest and open to these, you know, to their students in the colleges. Like, I can close my eyes and put myself back there now.
Yeah.
Like, if I close my eyes, I can go right back to that point. Like, I can feel the frost underneath my feet on the grass, like the crunching. Um, the sea was like a mill pond, dead calm, but there was a bit of a breeze on my face. And I just remember standing there and just thinking, like, "Oh, I just can't do this anymore." And it was this overwhelming feel of guilt that just come up from my stomach of, what about the boys? And because I had this such close relationship and bond with my kids, like, the thought of leaving them without a dad and the impact that would have on their lives made me turn around. And I always say now, whenever I talk about this, like, my kids are my biggest heroes, and they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Because of them now, I'm changing like thousands of lives that I'm working with in schools and stuff, just because of those boys. And
That's
they're
so.
heroes. And they don't even realize it. That's the thing. They go on about, they go about their normal days, and they're just like, well, yeah, sort of like, yeah, dad's doing this, dad's doing that. But they don't actually realize like the depth of what the impact they've had on my life.
That's absolutely amazing because they always say like you should never meet your heroes. And you know Ben's
Yeah.
story, like I live with my heroes,
Yeah.
so yeah, and you do as well. So and you're right, they have no idea, and they'll look at you like really funny as if to say, "Oh, shut up."
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it. But what fascinates me about the work you do is because you can resonate with so many people. Because, like you say, a lot of people would have felt like that.
Yeah.
So what you've been through to actually turn it around into something good where you're actually using a really crap experience to stop others going through that.
100%.
And that is just absolutely amazing. So when you go out to the schools, so you're teaching them confidence, mental resilience, like emotional state?
Yeah. So when I'm going out and doing assemblies, I try and hit them like that's something that's really, whatever school I talk to is really prominent in all schools. It's a lack of confidence in
Mm-hmm.
kids. and managing state. So understanding how they feel, realizing it's okay to feel in a negative emotion,
Yeah.
and how you can change it. And the most important thing for me is sometimes I get 20 minutes, sometimes I get an hour, but in that time is helping them understand, or just giving them tools and techniques that they can use to change how they feel in an instant, and realize that confidence isn't something you can just have. Like if you've never done something before, you can't be confident at it. Like
Yeah.
confidence at its most basic form is just having future belief in yourself that you're going to be okay, whatever you're doing. So to start with, you just need courage. And I think the thing that I find really useful is the fact that I use stories of my kids quite a lot. So I talk, there's a local like a venture park here called Knockhatch, where they have like a drop slide. And I talk about Charlie's experience about not wanting to go down the drop slide, and he wasn't confident, but we had a chat and he stepped over courage. You know, that first step is courage. He went down and then his confidence grew. And then I couldn't get him off it for 4 hours.
It's
And
amazing, that, isn't it? Yeah.
just something so simple as that, using an experience or a story that I've got with my kids, like the kids that I'm talking to in these assemblies can resonate with that, especially in the local area, because they're like, oh yeah, I've been to that place. Like, I've been down that slide. And you can hear them all gossiping and stuff like that. And that's the key to it. I remember like when I was at school and we get speakers or people come in, like they'll just talk at you.
Yeah.
And there was no sort of like back and forth, but where I'm really interactive, and I encourage the kids to ask questions. I ask them questions and get them to answer. And I think that's the most important thing, because once you lose a kid's attention, that's it. It's gone. You ain't getting it
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
So it's just getting that interaction going with that's really important.
That's amazing, and just making them feel part of it. I
Mm.
think the thing with emotions, it's like this big thing where everybody came out and went, it's all right to feel, it's all right to feel crap, you know. And I think I heard you say, I think it was on a post or it might have been a podcast, where yeah, it is, but not for too long.
Yeah. So
So
it's okay to not be okay.
that's it. That's the
Like,
one. Yeah, yeah,
it does. Like I completely get it. And do you know what? That post that I made about that, it got me a bit. I got a few messages of people. It gave me a bit of flack. And I'm like, but you're missing what I'm trying to say. Like, I fully get it. It is okay to not be okay. What's not okay is staying there.
yeah,
And by these people sharing like Instagram posts and it's okay to not be okay, and putting this sort of like big fluffy cloud around it and making it a little bit hairy fairy, like it's almost making it acceptable for people to feel that way. And I get
yeah,
it, like having a negative feeling, feeling down or low or upset, angry, whatever it may be, it's a perfectly normal, like human emotion. It's a perfectly normal feeling. Like it's just your body's alarm clock letting you know that something's not quite right. So
yeah.
feeling that way is okay, but staying there isn't. And it's the action you take moving away from that to get yourself back on point, which is important.
That's amazing, because I think adults can sit with emotions way too long.
Yeah.
So to actually explain that to kids, where, you know, actually we can change it quicker, we don't need to fall into that category, is absolutely amazing.
And that's the easy thing as well. Like telling the kids, like, you know, I need, like I say, I only have a certain amount of time with them. So I'm like, well, look through the camera roll on your phone. I guarantee you can't look through the camera on your phone and not smile. Like I can. I know if I'm feeling a little bit low or whatever, I look through the camera roll on my phone. There's pictures of the dog doing stupid stuff. Me and the kids, like on days out, like me and Charlie went for a walk yesterday and I took about 5 or 6 pictures of him. Like we had a flooding down here. One of the rivers broke its banks. And it's just him just doing like stupid like TikTok dances and stuff in the water. And I find it hilarious. So you can't, it's just little nuggets like that. Like the kid wouldn't even think about that, but look through the camera roll on your phone.
Well, that's it. We've got this technology. We might as well use it for good, right?
100%.
And that's it. And every kid's got a phone right now. So it's like
Yeah.
a smartphone. And so, yeah, they're very lucky. One thing that I quite liked is, I know recently they've changed how they like rate IQ, and they're actually putting emotional intelligence in with IQ levels now, which is absolutely amazing. Because I don't know about you, but you know, like in a school setting and going on to adulthood as well, you could be top of your class at school, high achiever in adulthood, but if you've not got emotional resilience, you're not going to get far. You
No,
are
no.
literally going to fall at the first hurdle.
Yeah.
So I was really, really like, yes, I'm glad they're doing it now, that they're actually testing you on your emotional resilience as well,
Yeah.
because I believe you could come like middle of the class, but as long as you've got mental resilience, you're going to be all right outside school. You're going to be absolutely fine. What do you think about
Yeah, 100%. Do you know what? It's like common sense, isn't it? How many people
that?
do you
Yeah,
know who've got a really high IQ, really clever, but no common sense whatsoever?
yeah, yeah,
Like, I know loads of people like that. Well, I'm not academic at all in the slightest, but I reckon I'm quite savvy. And
yeah.
it's important, and emotional intelligence. And I think that's something that kids are massively lacking at the moment. That and social skills.
Mm,
We always talk about the big C, like the COVID era and stuff like that. And I think there was such a gap for kids in that period where it's so like, and it's in certain age groups, that time is so important for social interaction that they miss it out. And this is where the lacking confidence is starting to come in now, because kids don't know how to interact. I go to primary schools and there's kids in year six, year five and year six, like lads that are in the playground playing like silly games and like you would see from a year one or a year two, and screaming in the playground and stuff like that. And you're thinking, guys, you're going to secondary school next year. You're going to get eaten alive. But if
yeah,
you go,
you're going to have one hell of a shock.
yeah, yeah. And that's the other thing as well. Like you look at kids now, like in like sort of like year nine, and they missed that era, that interaction, or sorry, that step up from primary to secondary school.
Mm,
Like there's a whole transition that they missed out on. And that's a massive transition to go from being a big fish in a small pond to a small fish in an even bigger pond is a
yeah,
massive
yeah.
transition. And they missed that. They just got thrown in. And it,
Do you know, it's funny you should. I was talking to a friend about this yesterday because so her son's last year of secondary school, and she was like, "Does Ben go out socialising?" I was like, "Well, he goes to the gym, but you know, like when we were younger, we were out all the
I
time."
was
And
out
I said,
all the time.
"Yeah, all the time." But I mean, obviously, we didn't have the technology, but I honestly believe COVID made this worse because everything went online, their
Oh, yeah.
schoolwork, how they contacted with friends, and I don't think they've bounced back. And I just said, I worry about the future where that's concerned because they are not developing relationships,
No.
like things where it's coming to like interviews or working in groups if you're like in a certain career. That all that is going to be hard work
Oh, yeah.
without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
They just don't have that savviness about them. You know, like when I was at school, like obviously we didn't have phones and stuff like that. And we used to plan at school what time we were going to meet and where. And we just go out. But you know, they have like these mobile devices now where they've got everything in their hands. And I think a big problem through lockdown as well with this is like YouTube and stuff like that. You know, rather than using it for good, people were just letting their kids have a little scroll. And then what they're doing is they're turning people that are like I class as idiots into heroes, like people that are just doing stupid stunts online. Like some of the stuff I used to catch Charlie watching, I'm like, mate, just watch something useful.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you learning from
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Like
Yeah.
there's guys like throwing stuff at each other or pushing each other in a swimming pool or running up with a wax strip and like ripping it off the back of someone's neck. And like these guys are now being paid. And like you talk to kids in schools and you're like, well, what do you want to do? Like what sort of dream have you got? And all they want to do is they want to be a YouTuber because it gets some money.
Mm,
And then what happens is there's no fulfillment in that.
no, no.
I've
And you're
done
still sat
jobs.
on your own doing it. You're not
Yeah, yeah.
mixing with anybody.
You know, I've had jobs that paid me well, but there's no fulfillment in it. Not whatsoever. And that's what I love about this. Like, I, you know, right at the start and even now in the local area, I'll run free assemblies for the schools in the local areas just because it's not about just the money for me. You know, like when I do these assemblies for free and I walk out, I don't think, oh, you know, that was like 150 quid I missed out on or whatever it is. Like I walk out and I'm like buzzed that I've just had that opportunity to have that impact on those kids. And that's
That's
what it's about for me. It's just that it's more about money. And I think once you find your true calling, and you'll find this as well, like what you feel is like your true calling, your crusade, the money is a byproduct of what you're doing.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That is, it's helping people is the reason that it gets you out of bed and you're excited to
100%.
get out of bed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned schools. Now I know schools are under pressure, but what are they doing wrong, and what could they do differently?
Um, I think that things have moved on a long way since when we was at school. And you only have to look at behaviour in some schools. Like I go to a few schools and there's kids just wandering the corridors. Like they don't want to be lesson. There's no pressure for them to be in lesson. If they want to get up and walk out, they can just walk out. And I'll go in and I just see them wandering the corridors. And do you know what? Like half the time they're just good kids. They just lack direction. Like a few of them I'll walk in and I'll go, like, what are you doing in the corridor? And they're like, oh, I just don't know, I just find it boring. I just want to go out. I was like, well, what are you going to learn out here? And they sort of shrug their shoulders. I was like, come on, what can we do moving forward to this? Like, what's going to keep you in class? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, well, how about like, if you go back to class, I'll stick around and we'll play a bit of football at lunchtime. And they're like, yeah, all right. And they go back into class. And I know the schools are under a lot of pressure at the moment. There's a lot of children that are in mainstream schools that probably shouldn't be. Like they need that extra support and extra help. And I know TAs that are really struggling at schools and stuff because of the pressure they're put under. There's a lack of staff in a lot of schools, and what you'll find is a lot of teachers are like they're pushed to their limits.
Yeah.
They're trying to teach these big classes. They're not small classes. They're like 30 odd kids. And if you get like a few in there that need one-to-one attention and there's only one TA in there, it's hard work.
Yeah.
So I mean, from what I see, that more staffing, there needs to be more people to help these kids because it is getting a bigger problem. And they can't just expect one TA in each classroom to be able to deal with 5 or 6 children that probably could do with one-to-one.
Yeah.
And it's just that I feel, and I think there's a lot of people that agree the same, that there's a lot of stuff that are taught in schools that they could probably get away with not teaching, and more stuff like life skills. So simple stuff like my eldest left school, didn't know how to open a bank account.
Yeah.
Just simple stuff like that. And I've always tried to help the boys. We cook together. Charlie will get up in the morning, he'll make us all pancakes. Like Alfie will do his own washing now. And it's just things like that. Like I think it's important that the boys learn these just simple skills. This weekend just gone, we just done some stuff like we done a couple of tip runs from the garage. I showed him how to put coolant in the car, and then me and Alfie changed the brake pads on his he's got like a dirt bike. So we changed the brake pads and the caliper was seized, and it's just little life skills like that. And I find that Alfie, my eldest, really struggled at secondary school, really, really struggled. And he's now being tested at college for like ADHD and stuff like that. And dyslexia, which they never picked up on at secondary school or primary school. But he's one of these kids where academically, like he won't sit there and enjoy a lesson, but you give him some tools and something to take apart and put back together, and he's in it till the end.
Yeah.
And I think that more life skills needs to be
more life skill. We were speaking earlier before the podcast, and I was saying that we both said that if we had what you're doing right now, back when we were at school, we would have dealt with life's challenges better. Because I think one thing that schools massively lack, and at home, parents don't teach children this neither, but it's especially with schools, they're just so adamant to get you through the school years and to get a pass, a good grade, and then they're on to the next kids that we're never really taught about what happens when something goes wrong, what happens if we fail at something, what do we do after that. So we're not taught anything about that. And let's be honest, being an adult isn't simple. We face challenges.
Yeah.
And I believe that if we are taught how to be mentally resilient and getting over fails and not seeing them as fails but lessons and viewing it a different way, would absolutely kind of help the mental health crisis.
100%. I mean, I'll be speaking at a conference in a few weeks' time for Nikki at the Dandelion training, and a lot of my talk is about this stuff. Like you look at the spike in mental health in children since it was quite steady 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and then it's just literally just catapulted, like skyrocketed since then. And I think it's not just teaching them skills like learning that failure, like I always say to the kids, it's I don't ever say you fail. Like you either win or learn.
Yeah.
And one of my presentations, literally the opening slide is, I want you to fail. And they're all like, what? And all the teachers are like, what's going on? I was like, well, if you're not trying, if you're not failing, you're not even trying. Like you have to be physically trying at something in order to fail at it. So I want you to fail because when you fail, you'll learn how to do it better.
Yeah.
You can see, and then you can see the little brains ticking over. And then I think the other thing that they're massively lacking is, like we spoke about the emotions things, like letting them know that it's okay to feel every single emotion. It's perfectly normal. You know, like I hear parents, like their kids are having a breakdown in the middle of Sainsbury's or something, and they'll be like, oh, come on, you've got no reason to be angry. You got this, you shouldn't be feeling this way. Well, why? Something's obviously upset him or her. It's perfectly normal. Like that's normal for them, but we need to teach them how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then that's the main thing, you know. And I think in schools having, you know, I know they have counselors and I know they have people that come in and talk to the kids, but I think I know this isn't the case of everywhere, but from what I've seen, these people come in and they're very, and it's the same like you were saying just a minute ago of the curriculum. It's very box ticking.
Mm.
They'll come in and have like a certain set of questions, and everyone fits into a box and everyone fits into a category. And this is how we're going to deal with this one, and this is how we're going to deal with this. But it's not like that. Like everyone's completely different, and everyone will have a different way of dealing with things. And it's the same with kids. I don't know why people expect kids to deal with stuff like we deal with stuff.
Yeah, exactly, and exactly that. Yeah, their
They
brains
don't,
aren't equipped like ours are.
they don't have the training. They don't have
No.
the knowledge. They don't have the previous like ups and downs that we've had to get to the point where we are. Like, why are we expecting them to be on the same level as us?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Like you see adults completely forget. You
yeah.
know, it's like they're talking to like a 40-year-old when they're like the kids are like 6 years old, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh come on.
And do you know what I do it? Like I catch myself with Charlie. So my youngest, Charlie, he's 12 and he ain't far off me. I'm 6 foot and he's a big lad, right? And sometimes like something will happen or he'll do something. I remember last year we went on holiday actually, and he was like, oh, I want to go in the shops and I want to look at all like the Nerf guns and this and that and this. And I'm like, and I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, mate, come on, you're a bit old for that now. And I just forget how old he is because the size of the lad.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I have to remind myself, like, he's still a kid. Like, just let him be a kid.
Hmm.
So I end up buying a Nerf gun with him and we was having a fight. So
Oh, amazing. One thing I did want to ask you about, because there's a lot of people saying this right now, because there's a lot of, I'm not going to name drop, but there's a lot of influencers that children, especially teenagers, are paying attention to. I'm not going to name drop or give an opinion, but do you think there's a lack of like role models and inspiration?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So yeah, I said the same.
And going back to
What?
what I was saying earlier about YouTube, that's what's happened. They've
Mm,
they've glamorized and they've turned people that are doing these stupid things, like they've turned him into a leader or they've turned him into an idol. And these kids are aspiring to be these people. And it's, you know, back in my day, like even now, like I look back and I'm like, I want to be like my granddad. Like my granddad was one of the coolest guys I've ever fucking known. Like like even like in his late years, like he was always messing around with me and my brother. Like was like he would show us how to like burn stuff with a microscope. He would go and play football, and he was always doing stuff with us. And he just had that aura about him. And there's just such a lack of that now. There's a guy I follow called Sean Whalen, Lions Not Sheep, and I love him because he's just so straight talking. And he actually done a reel a little while ago talking about this, saying about how kids are now following these dumbasses on TikTok and on YouTube and stuff like that. And there's just a lack of leaders, and that's what. And I feel like there's that in schools as well. Like there's not. I remember like when I was at school, I can remember a primary school teacher called Mr. Lacey, right, at my primary school, and he was like the guy that everyone was not scared of, but they respected. Not because he was like he'd whack you or whatever, but he'd have that tone. I call it the dad voice. Like, and you've probably heard it loads of times and stuff in the past, like with my boys when they were younger. Like, boys, can you put your shoes on? Boys, can you put your shoes on? 3 times. And on the full time, I'd be like, boys, can you put your shoes on? And it's just that drop in the tone. And that's
Yeah.
and this is what this guy had. And everyone just respected that. And, and the head teacher at my secondary school, you'd walk past him in the corridor and you wouldn't even make eye contact. You'd be like, as you're walking past him. And it's not that people were scared, it's just that people respected them. And I feel like there's a lot of that missing. There's a lot of respect missing at the moment because there is a lack of leadership from certain people. And kids are, you can't deny the fact, crime rate in kids has gone up. You
Yeah.
hear, it makes me worry, like stuff Alfie and Charlie have told me, like kids taking knives to school and stuff like that. Like, for what reason? When I was at school, I was smuggling my football boots in my bag so I go to the park and play football after school. Like,
Yeah.
and this is what I mean. It's just, I think there's just a lack of leadership. There's a lack of discipline. Like, people don't follow through with discipline enough. I'm not saying you have to beat your kids or anything like that because I don't agree with that at all in the slightest. But if you're going to punish your kid and say, I'm going to take your phone away for a day, you take the phone away for a day. And if they ask for it back before that, whether they apologize or they clean the house and they feel like they've made amends, they do not get their phone back until you said it. Like, follow through, because if you don't, they're going to lose trust in you.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
Like, now you've mentioned like parents, I wanted to get onto that because obviously I coach adults, and the amount of people that I come across, including myself, I've had to work on limiting beliefs for like on myself as well, but they tend to go back to childhood, where it's either a teacher said something to you, you've seen or heard your parents do something, you've been in an environment that's made you feel uncomfortable, you've took on somebody else's limiting beliefs, like your parents, like I did with my mum, that I didn't like water, and actually I've not even tried it. What do you say to parents about, because I scream about environment, and children's brains are they're like sponges. Like, they literally learn their values, how to have a relationship, morals, everything about the world from the adults that they are around.
100%.
And you put a post on earlier that I shared, and I noticed a hell of a lot of other people shared as well, about the supermarket and the drink.
Yeah.
Now, people are very unaware what they say and what children see is what they'll think is normal growing up. So what do you say to parents about that? Because I think parents massively overlook that, especially in times of breakup, or whether they've got their own stresses. And I think with mental health, is it up to 50% now since COVID? That's with adults, so the children are going to be affected, they're going to be around stress, so how do you combat that?
The thing that I scream from the rooftops is we lead by example, and any of the parents in my program will tell you the same as well. I literally hammer it in, and I'm not saying I make mistakes as a father, as a dad, I'll make mistakes now. Like yesterday, for instance, I had loads going on, and I went downstairs and there's a mess in the front room, and I was like, for Christ's sake, boys, like, can you please just give me a hand? Like, if you finish with your drink, if you finish with your rubbish, please just take it outside. Like, I'm doing this, that, and the other. I'm doing everything else. Can I have a bit of help? And you see their faces are like, oh, Dad never gets like that. And I came away and I thought about it, and I was just like, do you know what? That was out of order. Like, I didn't need to raise my voice. Not that I've raised my voice and shouted, but they just saw a different part of me that doesn't really come out a lot. And I was just like, I just need to go and apologize. So 10 minutes later, I went back downstairs and I was like, boys, like, I just want to say I'm sorry. That wasn't the right way for me to deal with that. Like, I hold my hands up, I take full responsibility for it. I shouldn't have done that. I should have handled it a lot better. And I'm sorry. And they was like, oh, that's all right, Dad, we understand. And I was like, but I just want you to understand that I'm taking responsibility for how I just behaved. And I'm sorry for that. And I love you both loads. And I didn't mean to upset you if that was the case. And I think kids respect you so much more when you just go, do you know what? I messed up. And I think that's what is really important as well. Like, getting young parents to understand that they're not going to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes. But what we need to do is we need to be conscious about what we're doing. And when we make these mistakes, we rectify them. You know, we recognize them. We apologize if we've made a mistake that involves upsetting the kid or whatever. But ultimately, leading by example, being the lighthouse, you know, showing them, don't tell them. That's what needs to happen more. And I think if we would start doing that, there would be that sense of leadership coming back. Like kids would start, you know, would start looking at their parents as heroes. You know, my boy Alfie sent me a thing off Instagram the other day, and it was just like there was a bunch of like famous guys saying like being asked in interviews like who their heroes are, and they're like, "Oh, my dad," and he sent that to me, and he's just like, "This is for you, this is how I feel," sort of thing, and you know, and it really touched me that that's how he feels about me, like he looks up to me in that respect, and
Mm.
and I think that's important. Like, you know, you hear a lot of people now, like I said just a minute ago, like the kids are saying, "Oh, I want to be like so and so on YouTube or whatever." How often do you hear like someone now say, "I want to be like my dad"?
Do you know what? And that is so true. That is so true. And it's like you post on earlier, so in the supermarket, and you say about the little girl with the prosecco,
Yeah,
and all the adults like laughing. And I think that's the problem with society. Adults, when they're stressed, if they're showing that they reach for a drink, an alcoholic drink, when they're stressed, guess what the kid's going to do? Like, they're going to grow up thinking, okay, so when I'm stressed, I go and grab some alcohol.
yeah. Well,
And
that's what she proved, that girl. You know, she
yeah,
could have been honestly no older than 7. And she was like, "Oh, mummy, I can't wait to get home so I can have Prosecco and relax." And everyone starts laughing. And do you know what? I get it. Like when kids come out with stuff, it's like when you hear your kids swear for the first time.
mm.
You're like, oh, like try not to
Yeah,
laugh.
yeah. I
Like,
remember when Ben
oh,
did it, and he's
oh,
like,
yeah,
oh no.
yeah. So and the thing is, when they see you laugh as well, what do? They just run around saying it.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And because then I think it's okay to do that. But, you know, but obviously this mum at some point or on a regular basis has said, "Oh, I can't wait to get indoors and have a prosecco and you know wind down a little bit." And she might not be saying it to the child, but just saying it around the kid, she's obviously picked up on it. And like you say, they're sponges.
They really are sponges. Like, I couldn't believe when I started doing the neuroscience training, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, honestly, it's scary. It really is
Yeah.
scary. You think about it, like they look to you for everything. When they're born, all they're born with is just the natural reaction
Mm.
to live, eat, sleep, drink, poo, whatever it may be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else comes as a result of you,
Yeah.
like what you show them.
Yeah.
And if you're not showing them in that right way, then you can't have a go at them. You know, it's like I've had like situations where the mum's been like, "Oh, you know, eat your vegetables," and the kid's like, "I don't want them, I don't like them, I don't like vegetables." Eat them, like forcing the kid to eat the vegetables, and then she sits down and has a Chinese takeaway. "Oh, I'm not eating that. I'm not eating my broccoli. I'm not doing this." Like, hang on a second, like you can't preach to them and then go and do that. Like, and this is the thing. And you know what? Like, I'm glad you brought up that post because recently one thing I found is people like it when I'm very straight talking. Like I was talking to someone about this earlier. Like I've noticed with my post interactions and stuff, I've made a few posts recently over the last sort of week or two that have been quite hard hitting. And I think people like that.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a lot of I've always quite not that I was worried about what people would say or how they would react to what I'm posting, but I guess I didn't want to trigger people. But I think a lot of people just need that. It's almost like a slap around the face, and that's what I was trying to get at earlier. And I think that straight talking is an approach a lot of people like at the moment.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I was actually talking to Luke Harrison yesterday about how blunt he is on
Yeah, yeah,
social media, and I honestly believe people need to sit there and be shocked
yeah, 100%.
because people need to be self aware, and people need a wake up call, and especially where their kids are concerned, because if they grow up and they're not in a good state, they're going to be upset anyway, and they're going to kick themselves thinking, right, what have I done wrong? Because
Yeah,
it tends to be, um, like I say, the sponges, like that's how we learn from the world, from our parents and the adults around us. And being a neuroscience geek, like one of my favorite subjects is neuroplasticity. And it's great because adults can change. We can change behaviors, habits, and things like that.
yeah,
But in children, it's much quicker. Like,
100%.
oh yeah, and like about 7 years old, we start to grow myelin around it, so it becomes super quick connection. So if you are learning bad habits from your parents, you are going to be wired and super wired with neuroplasticity to have bad habits. But if you adopt good habits at a young age and carry on doing it, repeating that,
Yeah.
you automatically going to grow up and have a better mindset and be healthy, which is why I like what you're doing so much, because I know that you do journaling with kids.
Yeah.
I know that you do like gratitude, hydration,
Yeah. So
like
this is like their little Bible.
yeah. So talk to me about the goal setting and the journaling.
So with the goal setting and the journaling, it's basically like you were just saying about habits and rituals. Like it's
Mm,
getting simple tasks embedded in them now, so that when they get further on into life, like they just become the norm. And you know what? I don't ask the world from the kids. So basically, I set within the journal, you'll see there's 5 points up for grab every single day, right? And the idea is that we turn life into a game. And if you're setting the rules to your own game, you can't lose. And what it does is, as a kid, how much did you love just boxing stuff off, like little achievements here and there and doing bits and pieces? Even now, like I'll write a to-do list and, in our journal, it's got like 4 things, your 4 priorities of the day. Like I'll write loads around it as well, just because I like boxing stuff off. So
yeah,
and it's literally, look, like movement, water, appreciation, gratitude, and blackout.
perfect,
They're all pretty much self-explanatory, apart from the blackout. And all that is, I just say to the kids, half hour before bed, no electronics. And what that
perfect.
does is try to encourage them to do the journal before bed, so they're winding down, and listen to the guided meditation that I made as well. And that's
See,
that's what
that's
blackout's about.
and that's perfect, because if you can get it in somebody young and they like I say, keep repeating it, they're
Yeah.
more than likely going to carry on doing that. Have you heard of the marshmallow test?
No.
Oh, mate, you need to get this. So it is out in a book. You can buy it. So it was an experiment that ran years ago in America, and it's one of the longest running experiments they've done. So basically, they were in a primary school and they sat kids in a room on their own, and they put a marshmallow in front of them
Yeah, I
and
think
said,
I
right, yeah, you can eat this marshmallow now, or I'm going to leave the room for 5 minutes. When I get back, you can have two marshmallows.
yeah.
Right. So they ran it on. Do you know what? It's really bad of me because I don't know how many kids they ran it on, but it was a lot. And, some of them, I don't know what I'd have done, whether the marshmallow or waited, if I'm being honest, but they've tracked them through their lives. Like they've followed all of these kids. And it turned out that the kids that waited for the second marshmallow have been more successful in their life.
Yeah.
The ones that had the marshmallow straight away were more likely to have like drug addiction, alcohol addiction. It's that instant gratification.
Yeah.
So with your goal setting, are you setting for 30 days, is it?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do with your
Yeah.
yeah,
So
so that's instantly delaying gratification because you've got a goal to reach.
yeah, yeah. So I was trying to find a sweet spot between the 90 days that we do and doing like weekly stuff, because I don't feel like you can really achieve that much in a week or in 2 weeks. But I think as a child, 3 months is going to be too long. Like they'd lose interest. So it
Yeah,
was finding that sweet spot. And, I run a few tests and I found like the month was better. So right at the front of their journal, it's literally, what your 30-day goal is, why does it matter, and what are the downsides? So they can see straight away like why they want to do the goal and what's the downside of not doing that goal. And I try to encourage the kids to do stuff that they can track. Like a lot of them would just say, "Oh, I'll read a certain book, or I want to do this, or I want to be nicer to my younger brother or sister." I'm like, but how do we track that? Like, how can we make sure that we are achieving that at the end of it? Because to say that you're going to be nicer to your younger or brother or sister, you could just play with them football in the garden for half hour one Saturday, and then you could just box that off as, oh yeah, I've done that. So I try to get the kids to do something that they can track, something that's visible, yes or no, I've done it. And working with stuff like we're doing something for so many times in a month massively works, because they've got to put constant attention on it. So with one lad, he wanted to do like, I think it was over the course of a month, he wanted to spend like I think it was like 6 hours or whatever it was. And we just broke it down, and I was just like, well, if you just spent with him like, like an hour here and an hour there every single day, then it breaks it down. And not only are you just doing it once, you're conscious that you've got to do it more than one time over a period of like 4 weeks. So I feel like the month thing was a lot better than doing the shorter goals or doing the longer goals. It's just like I found it was like that was the sweet spot for kids.
Yeah. Do you know what is that? What's interesting about that is because you've absolutely nailed that. Because you think about it, it's like a reward chart.
Yeah,
Like we get a dopamine rush, like what the children do if they get a star on the reward chart.
yeah, yeah,
But yours is actually better because they've got an end goal
yeah,
for
yeah.
that month. So that is constantly tracking. So constantly going to get a dopamine and serotonin rush and feel proud of themselves. And then the confidence will grow
Oh
because
yeah,
they'll
huge.
see them.
Yeah,
So it's like you've got everything going on in that journal. It's amazing.
yeah. Do you know what? That's probably one of the biggest things that I've achieved is that journal, like nailing that down. Because there's lots of it. I think I've used a few journals, and there's bits in here that I feel like you've got the magic moments at the back and stuff like that. And I've taken bits and pieces from lots of different journals that I've used in the past, but I feel like I've put them all together, and the kids absolutely love it. Obviously, some of them it's a struggle to get them doing, but honestly, you'll see the difference. So the point system obviously is out 35 every single week. I mean, in the private Facebook group, the parents have to post a weekly review, so it's like scores out of 35, and you see the ones that are hitting the higher scores are the ones that are achieving. Like it's
Mhm.
so black and white and clear cut. There's one girl in the program. The last 2 weeks, her target so in the weekly review, we put, what am I going to do 5 things I'm going to do this week that are going to move me closer to my goal. And her goal was to achieve a certain certificate at school. By Wednesday, she had done it just because she put her focus and attention on it, and that's what she wanted to do. And it's really
Yeah.
important. And the other thing I love about the journal as well is the emotions list that I've made at the back, because kids are always so black and white with, I want to feel happy, I want to feel this, or I feel, and they're just, and even I hear adults like, you say to someone like, how are you feeling? And they're like, oh yeah, I feel all right, or I feel happy. But are you happy? Are you joyful? Are you excited? Are you feeling bubbly? Then there's so many different ways of feeling certain different emotions. And I love the fact that the kids go to that and they've got a massive list of different emotions that they can choose from and really pick what they're feeling or what they want to feel.
Do you know what? I love that as well because life was. I'm not going to say life was simpler when we were younger, but it wasn't as hectic.
No.
So it's like if you're younger now, and one, your brain's forming, and you've got this hectic world around you,
Yeah.
that your journal is literally getting them to focus. And
100%.
so that is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
gold dust in this age, especially for
Yeah.
kids. So that is so impressive.
And I know when I started doing my journey, and I saw the difference it made in my life straight away.
Mm,
Like I say, the kids that are doing it, they're the ones that are in the program that are really sort of starting to run away with it and achieving really big things. I mean, the first question every single morning is the feeling I want to create today is why they want to feel that and how they're going to do it. Like if they're waking up in the morning and those 3 questions, they're instantly going to put their focus and attention on how they want to feel that day.
yeah, absolutely amazing. So I always ask people, what have you learned? Because when we go out and we start to impact other people, we start to learn a lot about ourselves as well. So what have you learned about yourself?
That's a good question. I started doing this just because I loved helping people. I run a couple of programs for adults a few years ago, and Fearless has sort of come off the back of that. One thing I've learned is how I can not simplify things, but I guess it is simplify things for kids to understand. Like rather than throwing all this information at them and expecting them to understand, I can break it down. I'll break it down into stories. I'll break it down into just easier bite-sized chunks that they understand. And whilst I'm talking to them and coaching them, I'll be like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you can see, and I can gauge by the reaction. And I've just always had this ability to, I don't know if it's because I'm a massive man child or what it is, but I've always had this ability to how to like resonate with kids. Like they'll always, I don't know, like when I do the sports clubs and stuff, for example, like the kids are going nuts. I walk into the playground and I come running over and they're like, Chris, 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 because I just interact with them. Like I'm not one of these guys who just go in and throw a load of like footballs out in the court and go, go on in guys, crack on with it. Like I'll have like 4 games going at once, and I'll go round to each game and get involved and have a play. And like I'll have kids that come up to me and talk to me, and like they don't get involved in any of the sports, but they come over and talk to me about dance or whatever. And I think it's just that ability to break stuff down for kids and just to how I can interact with them. And obviously, I reckon it's probably because I'm a massive kid, but
Oh, I can't fault you. Hey, if it works, it works,
yeah,
right? So
I think the thing that I love the most is the fact that this sense of being that I have now. Like before, I always felt like I was a little bit like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this job, and I'm a quite fully qualified like crash repairer for cars. Like I went to college for 3 years. I can weld. I can do loads of like manual stuff. I've got HGV license. Do you know what I mean? I've got all this stuff that I could go and do, but this lights my heart up. And then that's why I say about a crusade. Like this is what I feel like I've been put here to do now. And it's weird. We were talking about the universe and stuff like that. You know, and last year I took a bit of time out to go and work with my brother, and it just didn't work out. And everything I do now, I come right back here.
that's amazing.
I genuinely feel like this is my purpose now. This is what I need to be doing. And one thing we do like this hot pen technique, and I do it at the beginning of every quarter. And this quarter, something new came up that's never come up before, or even entered my head, and it's to change a million lives.
Oh, that is amazing. Do you know what? I love that.
That's it, and it literally just came out of nowhere. I was about 15 minutes into this hot pen technique, and it just come out on the paper. And it's just like, and I've changed a million lives. And I was like, that's fucking cool. Like that's something that I really want
I
to
feel
do.
like you told me a big secret on a podcast. I'll keep checking in with you to see how you're going. Right, so I do ask this now on every podcast because Javino, I asked it to Javino
Oh
because I know
mate,
he fires it
what a
back.
guy he is as well.
Oh, absolutely incredible. So, Chris, tell me 3 good things that you like about yourself.
Ooh, that's good. Um, so so what do I like about myself? Um, well, you caught me proper off guard there. I I like my ability to. I think I like the fact that I'm a caring person.
Yeah,
Like I genuinely give a shit. There was a situation today, like I went into town and someone's car, there's like steam pouring out of this guy's car, and his wife looked really like panicky and worried. And like I just went over and he was like really thankful. And I think that just for that, like I'm willing to help someone just because I want to help. Like I just want to make a difference and just little things like that. So I like that about myself. Um, I love the dad that I am to my kids.
fab. Yeah.
Fucking hell, that got me a little bit. Um,
Oh, bless you. I know you're a great dad, but I'm really glad you said
um,
that because I was going to throw that in the end if you didn't.
yeah, no, that's got me that one. Yeah, I love the dad that I am to my kids. Like I love that relationship. We're like best mates, but there's with the boundaries of being dad as well. Um, I don't know what else I love about myself. I love that I can just now that I love how far I've come. Like when I look back, so I set my goals this quarter up at the spot where I nearly ended my life. And
Yeah.
um, sitting there and writing the goals out, what I want to achieve in this quarter, knowing that back in 2018, I was stood there ready just to call it a day, seeing how far back and looking back at what I've achieved. I'm extremely proud of myself and I love what I've done since that day. So yeah.
Amazing. You should be proud of you. And I'm so proud of you as well. I'm so honored to know you. So where can people find you? Obviously, I'll post your links on here as well, but
Yeah. So
socials, things
yeah, so
like that.
socials. So a lot of the stuff I do is on my personal stuff. So just Chris Sheehan on Facebook, Fearless on Facebook as well. That will come up. I can send you the links for those. That's not a problem at all. Chris
Fab.
Sheehan official on Instagram and chris.fearless.academy@gmail.com.
Fantastic. You've been an amazing guest. And I
Thanks for having
honestly,
me.
yeah, no problem at all. I honestly believe that you are not only impacting the kids' lives now, but their futures are going to be a hell of a lot better and easier to navigate with what you're teaching them.
Thank you.
So I know that you're just going to be absolutely everywhere. I do believe
I
you're
am,
going to
right.
hit that 1 million impact without a shadow of a doubt.
That's another
And
thing I love about myself. I don't know when to stop. Like I've got no. People say it all the time. Like the boys now always say to me, "It's like you don't know when to quit," and I'm like, well, "Why would I quit?" Like
I'm a bit like that, and I can't work out whether it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I know I'm the same. Yeah.
Because to people, some people will look manic. I just
Yeah, I
like
know.
proper we'll pass it off as a good thing, mate. If anybody complains, it's their problem, right? Well, thank you ever so much. You're an absolute star. And if you don't follow Chris, make sure you do. And if you've got a child that could be, gain more confidence, get into goal setting. If you're worried about the mindset, I would definitely recommend that you get in contact with Chris because his results are absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, my lovely.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
I will see you soon.
See you later. Bye.
Bye bye.